Hi, I'm Sat from Apps for Good, and I'm going to be talking you through a tutorial on how to create and use Open Graph. And we're going to create a very basic app where you can, it's a bit of a message board app, I guess, where it shows messages on a page, and you can click the message and read more about that message on another page, and it will put a message using Open Graph on your profile, letting your friends know that you're using this app, so they will then be able to see that on your page and click on it and go to the app as well. This is following on from another tutorial where we showed you how to create a basic Facebook app that has a login button on it. So if you haven't done that yet, I'd recommend you follow that tutorial, and a link to that is in the description below. If you followed along with the original tutorial, and hope if you haven't done that, I strongly recommend you pause this video now and you do that. What you should have is when you press this button on the screen, it will say your name or the user's name, whoever's logged in an alert box. Now that was a great first step, but we now need to change this and improve on this because it's very basic, and this HTML page is still it's still using the sample information that was on this page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the navigator window of Orion Hub, and I'm going to open up the CSS file, and I'm going to open up the JavaScript file, and then I've already got my index.html page open as well. So you should have as well the index.html, the CSS one, and the JavaScript file, as well as the output of your file. And to see that was under sites, under navigator and under sites, and then you should be able to right click the tutorial and open the link that you create for that site as well. So I'd recommend you pause the video now and you make sure you've got this similar setup as myself. So what we've got is, if you hit the login button, it says your name, it says the person's name whoever's logged in, and we want to change that now. I don't want it to say hello world here. I want it to say hello, and I want it to say the name of the person who's logged in, so it's a bit more specific and customized to our user. So let's go to the index.html page and let's remove the part where it says hello world, because we don't want it to say that. And the app that we're going to be creating is a message board app. So I'm in the header, I'm going to change that, and I'm going to type in welcome to the message board app. And if I hit save and I go to our output and I hit refresh, you'll notice that this has changed too. So to get this to change to also have the person's name, I go to the index.html page. We're going to need to be able to reference this h1 specifically in the JavaScript. So I'm going to add in a class so we can refer to it. So I'm going to add in class is equal to, and I'm going to put in put in heading, and I'm going to put in name, so that I know this is the heading that uses the person's name, and I'm going to hit save. Now that we've done that, we can go to our hello.js file, and instead of alerting the response, we can comment this out because we don't need that, or you can just delete it. I'm going to comment out just in case I want to use that code in the future. I'll know where it is. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to append, so using jQuery or using JavaScript, I'm going to append the name to the heading that we had. So the name of that, if I just go back and copy this, heading name. So I'm going to use the dollar symbol, and I'm going to do bracket, full stop, or quotation marks, full stop, the name of the class that we need, and then I'm going to append the response dot name. And now what should happen is it should almost work. There will be a small error, and I'll see if you may have guessed what the error is going to be. but I'll just show you what it looks like if I hit the login button now. So now it's taken my username and it's put it there, but you can see there's no space here. So I'll show you how to fix that, but before I do, I suggest you just make the changes that I said. Pause this video here, make the changes, and even have a go at trying to see if you can fix this sort of bug. It only takes about 5 seconds to fix, but you just need to kind of be a little bit clever and see if you can find a very quick and easy solution, instead of trying to hack into any APIs or anything like that. Just see if you can think of a very quick solution, and give that a go, and then continue the video from there. So hopefully you managed to figure it out. If you didn't, that's fine. What I did, there's lots of ways of solving this, but the quickest way for me anyway is to just go to our index.html, go down to our h1, where it says hello, just add an extra space in, that's all. Hit save, and now what will happen is when we refresh the page, remember always to refresh the page so the code gets refreshed as well, then hit the login button, it will add the space in, and that's a very simple solution to that problem. So that's a big improvement now, so the app's a bit more customized. I'm going to get rid of this as well, because I don't think we need that. So there's two things we need to do. We need to remove the index code, and we need to remove the JavaScript code that's actually pulling the data in. So I'll go to the JavaScript code and I'll remove this code here. So that is no longer needed now. And I'm going to save that and then go to the index.html page. And I'm going to remove this h2 ID, and I'm going to remove this as well, this paragraph text, because we don't need that. And I'm going to hit save and just quickly go back to our output so we can see what that looks like. And that looks a lot more cleaner and a lot more efficient, and now we can actually move on from here. So I want to add a message board here. So I don't know how to do, off the top of my head, I don't know how to create a message board. And what I want it to look like is a bit like a post-it note, where you have a small bit of information somewhere here, and then you click it and it goes to another page. So that's what I want it to look like, but I don't know how to do that in CSS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just Google it, and a lot of the times you're not going to know how to do something, but you're going to hopefully have designed it, paper prototyped it, and maybe even use balsamic, so you'll know what it looks like, but you haven't got you might not have the code. That's fine. So I know I'm looking for a message board of some sort of type, so I'm going to type in Google message board and CSS, and you'll notice that the top link has, oh, I spelled message wrong, but the top link has what I'm looking for. So if I click on this, it has a bunch of code, and this looks like it could be of some use. And so they're saying in this, if I was to read this, they're saying to put the CSS in the head tag, but since we've got a separate file, we don't need to do that. So I'm going to take this CSS and I'm going to put it into our code, into our CSS. So we've already got lots of CSS there that was originally in the sample folder. I'm going to paste their CSS here, and you'll notice it's for a class called message. If we go back to their code, they have a div where they have their message, and then they have a h5 where their message actually is, and they close that div off. So that's where the message would be. So let's take this and see what it looks like on our one. So let's save the CSS file first, and then go to our index page and put that just after the button, and then save that. Make sure everything's nicely tabbed. It just makes things easier for us to read later on and to follow through as well, especially if we're sharing code with teammates. So let's go to the output, hit refresh, and see what that looks like. That looks pretty decent. I kind of imagined it being more like a post-it note. So what I'm going to try and do is reduce the size of this to be a little bit smaller, and rotate it slightly as well, so it looks like it's kind of been placed onto the screen. Um, I should also say though that the first time you design something, first time you develop something, you shouldn't aim for perfection. But this is just a small change that I'm going to be adding. And as you can see from this app, I'm not looking to create the best app. I'm just looking to create the functionality first on my first iteration, and then I'll build up from that. And I suggest you do the same as well. So let's quickly add this CSS in, and I'll show you how you can find that CSS as well to do that. The first thing I'm going to do is go to our CSS now, and I'm going to add in width to this, and I'm going to go for 30%, hit save, and then see what that looks like. That looks better, but now I want this to be slightly rotated. So again, it's always a good idea to just go to Google, and I'm going to Google CSS rotation. And as you can see, I had searched to the links. The first one didn't have what I wanted, but the second one did. So if I click on that, you'll see that it has some code on here. If you click on try it yourself, it shows an example of that, what the output is, and that looks about right. So I'll close this, and I'm going to take the code that it's given me, and I'm going to paste it into our app so that we have a similar effect on our message. So let's paste it in here. So something I should point out, this is the code that actually does a transformation, but they've added in a few other pieces of code. So this is specific for if you're using Internet Explorer, Mozilla, Safari and Chrome, and Opera. So sometimes when you get a piece of code, or CSS or HTML or JavaScript, it needs to be specific to the browser. Some browsers read things differently. That's all these lines of code do. They're just picking out, they're rewriting, they're rewriting the code so it can be interpreted the way that browser needs to interpret it. We don't need to worry about changing, really tweaking anything. But if we were to change one of these, we would need to make sure they were changing all of them, just to make sure every browser saw it in the same way. Okay, so let's save this. Let's have a look at the output of that. Alright, so it's rotated it, which is good, but it's covering the button now. And actually, if I look at this, it's rotated it a little bit more than I want it to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change some of the CSS to rotate it a little less, and I'm going to change something in the index.html, add a tag in there to see if I can create some space between the button and this div. What I suggest you do is you pause the video now, get up to this point, see if you can have a go at solving the problem yourself, solving this little bug. If you can't do it, that's fine, and just play the video and you can have a look at how I did it. Hopefully you'll give it a shot though, and you might have come up with the same solution as me, or even maybe a better solution. So the solution to this is to first go to the index.html, and I'm going to add in, after the button, which is here, the closing button tag, I'm going to add in some break tags. So this is going to add in some space, some new lines between the button and the message. So if I hit refresh now, we should have some space. So that's looking a lot better to me. This angle, as I said, is a little bit strong. I don't really like it, so I'm going to see if I can change it, just reduce it slightly from 7 to 5. And as I said before, it's important if you change one of these numbers, you need to kind of change them all so that they look the same in every browser. So let's save that and let's have a look at that. Alright, so it's just a little less, but I feel like that's a bit better and a bit more readable. Okay, so let's add another one of these to the screen. So see if you can add another one to this screen just below it, and see if you can change the angle to go the opposite way instead of going this way. and give that a shot now. Pause the video, have a go at that. You'll need to add some more CSS, and you'll need to add a new one of these with a new class name as well. So give that a try, and then if you get stuck, feel free to unpause the video and see the solution which is coming up now. For this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the index.html and I'm going to copy and paste this code again. So I'm creating a new one of these, but I'm going to give this a, well, I'm just going to do that for now actually, and then I'm going to go to, and I'm going to see the result of that. So if I refresh that, I've got 2. So that's a good start. Now I'm going to add some space between these by adding a break tag again. Let's just add 2 and see what that looks like. Good, that's looking a lot better. But they look exactly the same, and that looks a bit strange. So what I'm going to do is I want the CSS to change, but if I change this CSS to, let's say, 15, just so I can see the outcome of that, and hit save, you'll notice that they've changed both of them, and I don't want that. I just want it to be one of them. So let me just undo that. So we've got it as 5. So to do that, to affect them both separately, what I need to do is change the class name to this and give it a different one. So I'm going to have that as message2 now. And in the CSS, I'm going to create a new one by copying and pasting this class and creating a new class beneath it called message2, and hit save. And let's just make sure I created a message2 class there. That looks right. And now in this message2 class, I'm going to change the degrees to 15, 15, 15, 15, 15, just so I can see the output of it. And what I'm going to do also is the background color, I'm going to delete this and I'm going to change it to white and hit save. And then I'm going to see what that looks like. So that looks a lot better to me, except I want this actually. I think this would be better if it was rotated the opposite direction to the direction it is now. So the first thing I'm going to do is add in a couple more break tags, hit save, and I'll give you the opportunity to have a go at seeing if you can figure out a way to make this rotate the opposite direction. So give the video a pause, get up to this point, see if you can get this to rotate, and then unpause the video. So to do that, what you need to do is just go to CSS and just hit a minus where it says 15. And now it should go in the opposite direction. There you go. So I've got 2 messages here. I'm going to change this though to something else. Instead of enter message, I'll put something else there. So let's have a warning here. Let's put maybe important info here. Let's save that. Good, that's looking a lot better. So what I wanted to do was I wanted the person to be able to log in, which we've done. It says their name. Then it has a message board here. So we've got a message board up. They could then click on a notification, so one of these, and it would then take them to a separate page with some more information about what they're reading. And it would also let people know on their Facebook page that they're on this app. So then they could then come onto this app and see that information as well. So let's add some interaction to these buttons first of all. So we added interaction to a button. To add them to these, we would do it in a similar way. So if you've forgotten how to do that, If you remember, there's freeformers.com/snippets, and this has some links to some code that we could use. So adding interactivity, if I click on that, it takes us to it has some code here. So I have a click function. So let's copy this and let's paste this into our JavaScript. So we've got a login button there, exactly the same code we're using, but we don't want all of it. What we want now is just it to say alert. That's great. I'm going to remove the console because we're not really looking at that. And instead of a dot login, we want a dot message. And I'm going to copy and paste this again. And I'm going to put message2 here, and I'm going to put hello. This is a hello here. It's fine. And put hello2, and I'm going to hit save, and then we can test this out to see if this works by refreshing our main page. And if we click on this, it should now have an alert. Great, hello. And if I click on this, it should say hello2. Brilliant. So we know both of those pieces of code are working now. So both of those are working, but what I want it to do is when I click on one, I want it to go to a new page, and on that page to have some information regarding this little message, so some information regarding that warning. So let's create a new page. So if I go to sites, navigator tab that I've got open, and go to our Facebook tutorial folder, whatever you've got, and I'm going to create a new file. And I'm going to give that name, I'm going to call this one warning.html, and I'm going to save that by hitting the submit one. And I've got a new page now called warning.html, and I'm going to open this one up as well, and I'm going to put that next to our index.html page. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the code from index.html, I'm going to copy it all, and I'm going to paste it into warning.html, but I'm just going to delete a lot of stuff now. So I'll get rid of the JavaScript, I'll leave the footer in there, I'll get rid of all these messages, we don't need that, we don't need the login button either. I'm going to get rid of the Facebook script and the Facebook div. I'm gonna leave the call to the CSS. I think that's fine. Save this file as it is. I'm gonna say for the heading, I'm gonna put warning, and I'll say watch out. There we go. And I'm gonna say watch this video here. So since it's a warning, let's just for the sake of this video, let's find a video online and put that into this app as well. So someone would go on the message board, see that there's a warning, click on the warning to find and get more information, and they would come to this page. And on this page, I'm going to display a video. So let's create a new tab. Let's get rid of this one. Let's search for maybe Meteor. That looks like it will do. Let's then go to share, embed, and let's copy this code, and let's put that embed code into our video, into our warning.html page. Paste that there. Let's hit save, and then let's see what that looks like on our page by going back to sites, opening up that link, and then clicking on warning.html to see what that looks like. And that looks like it works. So that's, for now, that's good enough. So let's make sure that's all saved. That's fine. So we need to link this page now to our warning page. So that's a little tricky to do. And to do that, you probably guess what I'm going to do. I'm basically going to search in Google how to open up a page using JavaScript. And what we want to do is in our JavaScript where we have the alert, instead we want to have some sort of script that opens up another page, and we want to put this URL, the warning URL page, which is, if I just open it up for you, we want to open this here, this code, this URL, we want it to be inside our JavaScript, and inside another function that opens up new windows. So see if you can have a go at searching online for something that will open up a new window with that URL into it, and see if you can put it inside of this. So pause the video, give that a shot, and if you have trouble, don't worry, because I'm just about to show you how to do that. So I Google searched how to open up a separate browser window in the JS function, and I had to Google a couple of different things to get that one, and that seemed to be the most appropriate one to get the answer that I wanted. So don't worry if you didn't get it right the first time around. It takes a while to know what to Google. That is a skill in itself. So I've got some code here that I used from that basically I'm going to take from their site. And what's good about this site is it shows you what code to use at the top, window that open, and then it also has an example of the code in action. So if I click on this, it opens up the window, which is great, exactly what I want. So I've copied that. Let me just copy that one more time, and then I'm gonna paste that into our code. So let's go to the JS file. I'm going to replace the alert with this. Make sure there's a semicolon at the end. Hit save. I'm missing something though. I don't know if you noticed that, what I did wrong. I missed the window that opened. So let's get that as well. I'm not sure how I forgot that, but I did. That happens sometimes. Okay, so let's hit save and let's go to our code here and refresh it. What should happen is when I click this, it should open up the same window that opened up in the tutorial window. That's their one, brilliant. But what we want is we want to open up the warning site. So if we go to our site and we go to the login one that we have, and we can go to our warning page, and we can see the warning page with our video on it. We can copy this. I already had it open actually. We can copy that and we can paste that into our JS file, replacing their URL because we don't want that. We want it to be our one. So let's hit save, and now what should happen is if we go to here and we refresh it, we should be able to click this and it opens up the video in a new window, which is great. So you can play around with this. This is quite small. You should be able to figure out what you need to change in the JS file. So you need to basically change the window height and width to be able to make that a little bit bigger. But that works out okay for now. And now the final thing that I want to do is, what we want to do is add in an open graph, some code that tells everyone who I'm friends with that I'm looking at this little mini article, looking at this video, and I'm on this app, so they know, and they know that I'm interested in this, and because I'm interested in it and they're friends with me, they'll want to take the time out of their day and look at this site as well, and hopefully everyone who's using your apps will do the same, and that will really help to spread your app out and help to make it more viral as well. So if we close this and we go to our developers site and we go to our app, so tutorial login, and we hit edit, we are gonna we are gonna use Open Graph, and to do that, we're gonna need the first thing we need to do is make sure we have a namespace. So a namespace is another unique way of being able to identify our app on Facebook, and it gives us a link as well, a unique link to our app too. So I'm going to see, the only thing is it has to be completely unique, so it can be a bit difficult to come up with a unique name. Um, and you might have to try it a few times, but eventually you will hopefully find something. So let's try out tutorial login. Actually, I'll do tutor login test app. Hopefully no one's used that one before. Obviously, if you're doing your app, you want it to be more relevant and you want it to pick something that you will use in the long term. But since this is a bit of a temporary app, I don't think it really matters, for me anyway. But make sure your app, your namespace is a bit more relevant, unless of course you're just trying this out. Okay, so I've got a namespace. There was no errors, which is great. So now we can go on to create our open graph. So if I click on open graph, on the left hand side, it has this dashboard open. So the way open graph works, very briefly, is it takes two things, an action and an object, and it shows you the interaction between the action and the object. And it means that you can see how your friends are interacting with objects. So how they are, for example, planning a trip, or reading a document online, watching a video, or in the case of the app that we're going to create, viewing a message. Um, and by doing this, it kind of creates a story for your users, and it means they can share their story to their friends as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say people can view a board, as in a message board. But the views will be the action and board will be the object that people are interacting with. So let's get started. And the great thing about Open Graph and what Facebook have built is they do a lot of the hard work for you. So as you see in the next page, they have taken view, which is a verb, and they've looked at all the different ways that that can be used. So you can view a board, you have viewed a board in past tense, uh, and so on. Right? And it's a good idea to have a quick look at this to make sure they all make sense. But a lot of the time, Facebook have kind of got this spot on, and this will all make sense. So the past tense and the future tense is all fine. And all you have to do is really just save the changes and hit next. Unless, of course, one of these doesn't make sense, then I'd recommend you edit them. But most of the time it's fine. So I'm going to hit save, and then it's going to show me my board, my object, and again that looks fine, and it gives us an example of what our board would look like. So as you get a little bit better with the code, you can play around with this stuff, but for now I'd recommend just hitting save changes and getting to the next part of this, get this basic part working. So you've got aggregation. So aggregation is when someone has interacted many times with your app, you don't want their timeline to be affected by in a negative way. You don't want them to constantly pop up with, this person has viewed this article, this person has viewed this article again and again and again and again. So aggregation is a way of collecting all these many interactions between the user and your app, and collecting them together in a bit more of an efficient, nicer way. And you can choose the layer for that. So I'm going to say, and you can choose whether you want to show, whether it to be about the interaction the person has had with the board, or whether it's to do with the act, or whether it's to do with whether you want it to display the interaction between the action or the object. So I'm going to say I'm going to pick view. so people can see that they've been viewing the board. And then you can pick out the layout for that aggregation. Again, like, I wouldn't worry too much about this information yet. It's the first time you're doing this. Just see the outcome of it first and foremost, and then play around with it later on. So I'm going to hit save changes, see the final part of it. So now under Open Graph we have our dashboard, and this gives us the action types, the object types, and the aggregations. Okay, so before we start interacting with this code, let's just go back to our JavaScript file. What we're going to do is we're going to change some of this code, or sorry, I should say add to it, so that what we've got is we've got a way of being able to find out whether the person's logged in to our app. Because if they're not logged in, then we don't actually want to, well, we won't be able to run the Open Graph code. It will throw an error back. So to do that, what we need to do is we need to type out some code to check out if we to check the current status of the user. So this code that I'm doing now, fb.getLoginStatus, will check the status of the user, and I'm putting that inside the .message click. And what I want to do now is have a function here that takes the response that's given back, and it will then alert that response to us. And then what I want to do is just close this. So all I'm doing is putting in some testing stuff in right now. It's not actually doing anything more than that. So let's have a quick look at what this has done. We go to our page and I hit refresh and I click on this. It says connected, and the reason it's saying connected is because I'm already logged into the app. I had already clicked login earlier on. Although it didn't say my name, I was still already connected in from the previous time I hit login earlier on, and obviously in this video. So that's great. That means that this button is basically getting the connection, the status of the user, which means we can add to this now. And what we can do is get rid of this alert for starters, and we can say that if the function is if the response dot status is equal to connected, then it will one, it will open up the window, and two, it will produce the start the Open Graph code. So let's add in an if statement. So if response dot status is equal to connected, which is what already appeared, which is great, then we want this code to happen, which makes sense. And if not, so if the person isn't connected, then we want an alert to appear, and we want that to say, please log in to view this board. And hit save. And now what should happen is, if we go to our page and we hit refresh, we hit login, and we click on this button, the video comes up straight away. It's great. But I want to test now what would happen if the user wasn't logged in. So if I copy this URL, and I open up an incognito window in Google Chrome, and I paste the link back in here, and then I don't click login, I just click directly on this link, it should now say please log in to view this board, and it shouldn't throw up a new window. So that's great. And again, if I hit login button, it should ask me to log in. I'm not going to do that now because we already know what that looks like. So that basically means that that's working. The functionality is specific to when the user's logged in, and now we can add in some open graph code to react to that user who's been logged in and post a message onto the, or use the tap into the open graph and let people know that they've used this app and they're using this app. So before going any further, I'd suggest that you try and get up to this point. We've covered quite a bit of ground in the last few minutes, so see if you can get to this point, and then continue the video once you've done that. Great, so hopefully you've got up to this point. So now what we're going to do is we're going to, where it says you're connected, what we want to do is we want to kick in with that open graph code. So you may have seen this stuff before actually. If you ever use something like the Guardian app, and you've noticed that someone has on your news feed, it says something like one of your friends has read an article using the Guardian app. That's basically the open graph in action. And you might have seen a few video apps as well on Facebook that says, blah 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 has watched this video using this app, or these kind of interactions are all using open graph, and it's very powerful, and being able to tap into that's quite useful. So let's kind of build that in now. So if we go back to our developer account and we go to actions and we hit get code, it has a whole load of information here that we can't really understand, and we don't need to. Luckily, what we want to do is select platform, and we want to click JavaScript since that's what we're coding in. So there's quite a few things that you can do here. What we want is the top code, because we want to create a new action, and we're creating the view action because that was the action that I wanted to build. So let's copy that and let's hit close. And then let's go to our JavaScript code and let's paste that into just before the window opens here. I'm going to paste that, and I'm going to just put a little bit of space there. And the great thing about this is it's done a lot of the code for us. It's if we just show you, it's taken our namespace and our action, and it said we want to post. The only thing it hasn't quite done for us is it hasn't got this object URL correct, and the reason for that is because we haven't done that yet, and it doesn't have anything to handle the response that we get back. So I've already got some code for that. So I'm actually going to copy and paste that code into here, and I suggest you type this code out because this is quite useful. What it basically does is it checks for the response and it pastes and alerts an error. So I've just pasted it in now, as you can see. It basically, if there's any error with this code, it will alert it out, and if it does work, if this works, the open graph does work perfectly fine, it will give an alert as well and let us know. And this is just for us while we're testing as developers, and we can comment this out later on. In fact, this isn't essential. I'm just adding this in since we're testing it out. Okay, so we've got our action. We now need object code. So let's go back to our object and hit get code. So if we read this, it says put these tags on your page to mark up your board, and the first tag is a head tag. So this is basically saying replace the existing head tag that we have with this one. So if we go back to our index page and we replace this open head tag with the one that they've asked us to do, as well as the other code. So this is metadata. This is the first thing that that will be read in from our browser. Um, so this has got information about the action that we want and the board, which is great. The only thing that's missing is it says put your own URL here, object here. To get that, what we need to do is go to our live site and copy and paste this code and this URL. And the reason I'm taking this URL is because that's where I put the metadata and this heading. So it's in the index.html. So I'm going to paste that there, hit save, and I'm also going to put this same link that I put into the index.html. I'm going to put it into the JavaScript where it says the board, where it asks for the object. So let's hit save and let's run that by going to refresh the page, and let's hit this and let's see what happens. Okay, so nothing happened. So if I hit F12 on Google Chrome, it seems like it's thrown an error up. So if I hit, if I go to the bottom right hand corner, there's a little red cross. So I click on that. It says unexpected token hello.js57. So if I go to hello.js57, in fact, before I do that, let me just show you how I got that error up. If you can just see here, I click this red dot here and it said which line I should go to there. So if I go to hello.js line 57, it says the error is here. So it says that this is unexpected, and the reason for that is this is a bit of a funny bug actually. We copied and pasted this straight from the Facebook code. I'll show you actually by going to get code, and if I change this to JavaScript, this should actually work, and this might not be the case when you try this, because hopefully this bug will be fixed by the time you have a go at this. But there's actually a missing comma here. I don't know if you can notice that it's there, but it's not here, and this is the code that we copied. So on our code, it's going to be throwing up an error. So if I just go back to hello.js and I just add one in, that should solve that problem, and hit save. Yeah, that should solve the problem. So now that we've done that, let's test that out. Actually, there is one other thing I should add before we test this out. To use this, we're publishing an action to our page. So to do that, you actually need to make sure you have scope and publish actions under the login when the person first logs in. So we're asking for permission for that. We've already done that earlier on, but I didn't mention why we were doing that, and this is really important. If you don't have this, this will not work. So hopefully you would have followed that through from the previous tutorial and had that in there as well. Okay, so let's click on our code. Let's refresh it. Make sure we haven't got any errors. That looks fine. So let's click on log. Well, let's just click on this warning actually and see what happens. Great. So it's opened up the page, and it's thrown up this little alert box that says the action was successful, which is brilliant. That means that we've basically got OpenGraph working on our app, and I'll show you what that looks like now as well. So let's get rid of that. So if I just show you on my profile, under my activity feed, it says that I have viewed the sample board on tutorial login, which is the name of our app. It doesn't have an image because we haven't created one yet, but if I was to then, if it was someone I know was to then click on this sample board, it would take them to our app. And this is a great way of getting the app to spread amongst your friends and family and whoever's on your Facebook profile. So pause this video, have a go at doing that. In fact, you don't even need to pause it because we've come to the end of it, but see if you can get that all working. There's a few things that I suggest you do is try and have a go at adding another open graph, not an action, just adding the code to this button, this important info button, and try creating a new window as well and seeing how that works. So you would just need to change this code here, exactly what we've done here, but add it to the message to class that we did before. Then try and change the index.html, change the image. So if you look at here, it says OG stands for Open Graph. It's image. Change this image to be an image from maybe online or an image that you have on one of your servers, so that on the Open Graph on the user's profile, something something appears that's a little bit more interesting than a blank one, which is a sample one that they give us. So give that a shot. Let me know how you get along with it, and hopefully you get an idea of how this kind of works. I'd strongly recommend you download and you look at the Guardian, or well, you don't need to download it, but have a look at the Guardian Facebook app. It's a brilliant example of how that works. This is the most basic way of getting Open Graph working in your app. There are more advanced ways of doing that, and maybe in a future tutorial I'll show you how to do that and how to have multiple objects and actions as opposed to just the simple one that we're doing now. Okay, good luck. Let me know how you get along. Obviously, like, subscribe, and leave some positive comments or suggestions in the comment box below. If there's any other tutorials you'd like to see, just let me know, and I'll see if I can build up on that. Good luck.